I think it's probably good for us to break up, but I just love you so much.
The end of a relationship is one of the most misunderstood forms of pain, because from the outside, nothing seems broken. There are no visible wounds, no bandages, no scars people can point to, and yet inside, something real has been lost. Not just a person, but a future you imagined, a version of yourself that only existed with them, a sense of safety you thought was permanent. That's why heartbreak feels confusing. You're not just missing someone, you're grieving a life that no longer exists. And grief doesn't follow logic. It doesn't care how strong you are. It doesn't disappear because you tell yourself to move on. One of the biggest mistakes people make after a breakup is trying to escape the pain. They distract themselves, they stay busy, they pretend they're okay. But healing doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from facing what hurts. You cannot think your way out of heartbreak. You have to feel your way through it. Because a relationship doesn't truly end when someone walks away. It ends when the emotional bond is processed, understood, and finally released. And that takes time. Right now, your mind might be replaying everything. The memories, the conversations, the moments you wish you could change. You might be asking yourself what you did wrong or why you weren't enough. But the truth is, most relationships don't end because one person failed. They end because two people were no longer growing in the same direction. And that doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Heartbreak hurts because love mattered, and loving deeply is not something you should regret. What hurts the most after a breakup is the loss of identity. You were someone's partner, someone's safe place, someone's future. And now that role is gone, so you feel empty, disconnected, uncertain about who you are without them. But this emptiness is not the end, it's space. Space for rediscovery, space for growth, space to rebuild yourself without shrinking to fit someone else. This is the moment where real healing begins, not when the pain disappears, but when you stop running from it, when you allow yourself to sit with the discomfort, to understand what the relationship taught you, to recognize the patterns you want to break, because every breakup carries a lesson about boundaries, about self-worth, about what love should and should not feel like. And when you learn those lessons, the pain starts to change. It doesn't vanish overnight, but it becomes lighter. You stop romanticizing the past. You stop blaming yourself for everything. You start seeing the relationship clearly, not through longing, but through truth. One day you'll wake up and the silence won't feel so heavy. The memories won't control your emotions, and their absence will no longer define your day. That's when you'll realize you didn't lose yourself in the breakup. You found yourself. You found strength you didn't know you had. You found clarity. You found respect for your own needs. And most importantly, you learned that you don't need someone else to complete you. The end of a relationship is not a failure. It's a transition, a closing chapter that prepares you for a healthier one. Because the person you're becoming after this pain is wiser, more grounded, and more capable of real love. One day, someone will meet this version of you and love you without confusion, without hesitation, without making you question your worth. But until then, choose yourself. Choose healing over rushing. Choose understanding over anger. Choose growth over bitterness. Because this breakup is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of a stronger one. And as time passes, you'll start to notice something quietly changing. The pain no longer controls your every thought. The memories don't hit as hard. You begin to breathe again, without forcing it. This is when healing becomes real. Not because you forgot them, but because you remembered yourself. You start doing things for you, not to prove anything, not to distract yourself, but because you genuinely want to feel alive again. You rebuild routines, you rediscover passions, you reconnect with the person you were before love became self-sacrifice. And slowly your confidence returns. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need validation. You realize that closure doesn't always come from a conversation or an apology you never received. Sometimes closure comes from understanding that you did your best with what you knew at the time, and that is enough. You stop checking their social media. You stop replaying imaginary conversations. You stop hoping they'll realize what they lost, because you've already realized what you deserve. You understand now that love should feel safe. It should feel mutual. It should never require you to shrink. And if it cost you your peace, it was too expensive. This experience reshapes you, not by making you colder, but by making you clearer. You become more intentional, more honest, more protective of your energy. You learn to walk away at the first sign of disrespect, not the 100th. And one day, without warning, you'll look back at this chapter and feel gratitude instead of pain. Gratitude for the lessons, gratitude for the growth, gratitude for the strength you were forced to discover. Because heartbreak didn't ruin you, it refined you. And when love finds you again, and it will, you'll be ready. Not desperate, not afraid, but whole,